Welcome. I'm Patricia Tomowski from Healing ALS and healingadvocates.org. And this is my co-host, Scott Douglas. Say hello.
Hello. Hi.
And with us are Mark and Lisa Manchester from the Manchester Project. And Scott, if you could mute yourself real quick so I don't hear my echo.
Okay.
Thanks. And Mark and Lisa, Mark was diagnosed with ALS in 2011. He slowly got worse until he ended up on a respirator from 2015 to 2018. So 3 years he spent on a feeding tube and a ventilator. And since 2019, his trach was actually removed, and he's slowly but surely been improving, and he is now able to walk in a walker. He's able to speak, as you'll notice, and breathe on his own and swallow on his own. So Mark and Lisa, please say hello.
Hi there.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, so welcome. Just to let everyone know a couple of things before we get started. One of them is there are links in the description below, so please just look at the description to get the links that we mentioned. And also, this is what Mark and Lisa have done to heal. They're not giving medical advice. They're simply sharing that what he did. Everyone is different. Everyone has different vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Everyone has different toxins. Everyone has different gut bacteria. So they're sharing what they're doing, not necessarily what will help you, but they're going to give you lots of ideas of what might help people reverse ALS. The last thing I want to mention is Mark is Dr. Bedlack's 41st ALS reversal. This is actually part 2 of Mark and Lisa's, we did about an hour and a half recording on maybe 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so this is a follow-up for people who watched that video and were not able to, didn't get all their questions answered. So I have a whole list of questions, and so we're going to start on the questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so first question. For those who can't swallow capsules, but are not yet on a feeding tube, what did you do for Mark?
That's a question for Lisa.
Yeah, that's for Lisa.
For those who cannot swallow,
yes,
and they're not on the feeding tube,
that's difficult.
well, it is difficult, but definitely chat with your speech therapist to see what they can do in guiding them. What we did, we kind of improvised. If Mark had some swallowing, we would put the capsules in like a yogurt, or we would put it in like an applesauce. Applesauce became our best friend because yogurt wasn't the best for him.
Yeah, and I was aspirating liquids. So for those who cannot swallow, that's difficult.
Right, so I think the answer that they're looking for is you actually took apart the capsules, right?
Yes, yes. And once we got the feeding tube, we also opened the capsules to go into his, I could call it his cocktail of supplements and his crushed medicines, tablets or whatever, all in one down the feeding tube.
Yeah, but also we work with the speech therapist. I was having pretty bad, really bad dysphagia, and they found out that applesauce consistency I could get down. Something with pudding or applesauce, I could get down consistency. So
because it was thick.
I had to tuck my chin. I remember I used to tuck and swallow like 6 times. But then again, the question is for someone who can't swallow.
And they don't have a feeding tube.
Well, they can swallow. They just couldn't swallow the pills. The other thing you mentioned is that you made smoothie. You would put them in a blender, especially the capsules.
Yeah, as long as it's pudding or apples, consistency, nothing liquid. I would aspirate the liquids. So, yeah.
Yeah. The other question that Kim and Kay Cherry told me was that Kim could only swallow carbonated water for about 3 years. They ended up getting a water carbonator.
Wow.
And that helped him swallow. And one of the doctors that they saw mentioned that early on, and that was a huge help.
Well, you know, for us, before I even needed a PEG tube, my doctors were proactive because I was progressing. And when the dysphagia, even when I had slight dysphagia, they went ahead and put a feeding tube in so I wouldn't get in this situation where I couldn't swallow and couldn't get pills down. So I had a feeding tube while I was still eating. I had a feeding tube, and then as things progressed, where I couldn't eat, I had the feeding tube as the backup. So that was my doctors were really proactive for that. I had the feeding tube in 2013. That's when I could swallow. I was nectar thickness at the time, but could swallow most things, even though so when the feeding tube was there in place, long before I couldn't swallow at all.
Okay. Yeah. So that they tell you that too with the thick liquids. Actually, someone asked how you access the other video. The video previous to this is at healingals.org. Click on Mark Manchester's blog, and it's embedded in there in YouTube. So you could also do a search on YouTube on Mark Manchester ALS reversal. So we will also be posting this both in the blog and on YouTube.
There's a short timeline of him when he actually chews bubble gum, and then there's a longer detailed version where we actually do a Zoom conference with him.
Right, so it's the long one. Okay, perfect. We're up to almost 70 people right now, so let's just go on to the next question. Mark, did you have muscle wasting, and how much? And then the follow-up question is going to be, what helped the most to rebuild your muscles?
I did have a lot of muscle wasting, a lot of atrophy, and thanks to some wonderful therapy, because during this whole time, the therapy never stopped. But we had a very, again, proactive doctor that said, no matter what Medicare says, okay, you're not improving, we're going to continue with therapy. And she copied pages out of the Medicare manual, would send it to home health. And even though I had the atrophy, she made sure that they kept stretching me the whole time. I never went without therapy. So I lost a lot in my back and arms and legs. My neck, I couldn't hold my neck up. So I wore a neck brace to hold my neck up. But the therapist kept my muscles. They didn't build the muscles up. The muscles weren't building, but they did keep my hands loose. I slept with hand splints to keep my hands from curling up at night. So yeah, that was a lot of muscle wasting. And that during that time is when I lost a lot of weight. I lost probably 50 pounds less than where I am now. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So where was most of your muscle wasting?
Wow. Pretty much. I'm trying to think. Pretty much my whole body, my back, my shoulders, my biceps, my legs were really thin. Even my face, my jaws, and it seemed like because I couldn't chew, my face was kind of caved in. Of course, I had lost a lot of weight, so, but my hands, especially my hands in between your forefinger and your thumb, I had a hole there, so where the muscle had wasted, had atrophied. But again, the therapist continued to stretch, and Lisa would stretch. I had therapy 3 days a week that would come to the house, OTPT, and even during this time, speech and what else, an aid. But that was the 3 therapies, yeah.
Okay, good. So what do you Lisa and Mark, this is too early to both of you. What do you think, if you had to like pick the most effective things on why your muscles were able to rebuild? Do you think it was the nutrition, obviously the PT and the OT, because you were just trying to keep the muscles alive when he couldn't move for 3 years? But as far as what do you think was the most effective thing that you did to rebuild the muscles?
Well, I really had no muscle building. Everything was pretty much, I mean, they were stretching me until I started taking, you know, the amino acid supplements. And even the therapist noticed that without any kind of, you know, any kind of resistance training, that I was getting a little definition in muscle. I say, you know, it wasn't a lot, but they noticed a change in my muscle definition. And that was the leap in L-serine, the leap to be fit in L-serine. I'd been taking the other supplemental protocol for years, and that really didn't change anything until we added the leap to be fit in the L-serine. Lisa added that into my diet, and that the therapist noticed. You know, I mean, there was things leading up to that. I mean, but they noticed that pretty quickly that, you know, that, okay, Mark, whatever you're doing to build muscle and whatever proteins you're taking, keep doing it. So, yeah.
So that was really, you had already done your protocol, which is listed in the blog, by the way, at healingals.org. If you look at Mark Manchester's blog, the one entitled Mark Manchester. It was that, and then adding the leap seemed to make the difference. And for some reason, there was this balance, and you had done all these protocols, and then the leap was sort of the straw that gave you the nutrition that you needed, and your muscles started improving. Is that right, Mark and Lisa?
That's correct. And once they started, saw muscle definition or saw muscles improving, they got permission from the doctor to go ahead and do light, like with bands, training, you know, trying to put some resistance to build the muscle. And, you know, that was, it wasn't very heavy. They would do it for maybe a couple of minutes at a time until the fasciculations would start. And that was kind of like a key for them to stop. So, and more over a period of time, I could go longer and longer before the fasciculations started back. And, you know, and then again, I mean, what I have today is pretty amazing. Even though I don't work out, I haven't worked out with weights. We've been locked in the house for seems like years, but I know it's only been a month. But I continue to work out, not with heavy weights, and I continue to have therapy even to this day. Before this quarantine situation, I was going to the ALS clinic. There, they have physical therapy there, and I was going 3 days a week to the clinic. And with this happening, we had to stop that for a while, which I felt the difference even by stopping the therapy. I mean, I still have. I mean, I want to reiterate, I still have ALS. This is not a cure. I have had a reversal, yes, but I still have to work every day to, whether it's swallowing or breathing exercises, every day to keep going. I think if I would just lay in bed, I mean, a lot of these things would, I feel, and I've actually been told by the therapist, because I have a lot of balance issues. I still have some issues, balance issues, and I have some weakness in my hands and legs, but I'm not complaining. I'm not vegetative. I'm able to talk to you, and so.
So since not everybody got to watch the first video yet, and they're on, so I wanted to let you know, everyone, Mark between 2:15 and 2:18 was unable to move, he was unable to swallow, and he was unable to breathe on his own. He was on a vent. So he's been diagnosed with ALS. He's Dr. Richard Bedlack's 41.
No,
41. Okay, I wrote 42 down there, but that's fine. I'll fix it. Dr. Richard Bedlack, for those of you who don't know Dr. Bedlack, he's an MD, PhD from Duke University. He's the director of the ALS clinic there, and he has been documenting reversals to make sure that these people that have actually gotten better, did they really have ALS? So he's studied well over 100. I think he's documented about 45 so far.
45 he's up to.
45 ALS reversals. He's hoping to document 100 within the next year or two. So he's collecting medical records, and not everyone, sometimes he doesn't have enough, he doesn't have, the records aren't good enough for them to verify. It doesn't mean that they weren't a reversal. It was just that he wasn't able to document.
Well, the way
without
he
a doubt.
Me, Patricia, or his assistant Jesse Creal explained to me is that they followed me for almost 2 years, a year and a half, and they had to they have all my tests, and I've had multiple EMGs and multiple diagnoses. It wasn't just one doctor that diagnosed me. So they have to confirm that you have ALS before they can say you have ALS reversal. So there's no question that you don't have PLA or something else. So but yeah, it's a process with Dr. Bedlack. He's
great, fantastic. Okay, I want to move to the gut. Although before we get to the gut, maybe I should I think I'll do this after. People have asked about how you were able to afford it, but I'm going to actually wait. Let's talk about the gut. First is the bowel movements. Did you have a constipation problem, especially when you were bedridden? Because you were bedridden for 3 years. How long was it before you were able to have a bowel movement every day? And then how long before you were able to bring it up to twice a day?
Yeah, well, luckily again, we had, and I have to stress this because at that time, I had been going to a doctor and she switched to a MD-VIP program, our concierge doctor. So we had a lot of one-on-one with her, and we could even do phone calls. She came to the house, and she was proactive with that. She knew that, okay, Mark, you being bedridden, taking this medications, you're probably gonna get stopped up. So she put me very quickly on, her and Lisa regulated my bowel movements. I did have some blockage. I had some issues. Never had to go to the hospital, but it was close with impaction. But they were able to, with enemas and glycerin, magnesium citrate, things like that.
We were going this way and going that way.
It was either, that is an issue. And I'm glad that's a question because that is a big issue.
Yes.
And so finally they actually got it to where they had me on they tried a lot of things, and what they found that worked for me, and I think it's different for every pal, unfortunately, because the doctor told me this, is now I'm on 2 scoops a day, huge scoops of Muralax, plus I take lactulose, which is a liquid. I think it's like Castrol between you and I. It's a orange flavored Castrol is what it seems like to me, but it works. And when they had finally got me on that regimen, it worked, and I didn't have issues unless I didn't get enough liquids. The liquids are very important with your bowel movement. And Lisa made sure she was getting, 80, 100 ounces of water, fresh, clear water, as well as, the formulas, in me. And we went from functional formulary, which that helped too, because that has a lot of fiber. Functional formulary, which Liquid Hope. And then we switched to Kate Farm. I had a little bit of issue in switching to Kate Farm, but we rectified it. And so after that, I had no issues. But I'm glad someone asked, because that's a big issue if you don't deal with it, because we've had a lot of pals that go in the hospital with impactions and stuff. But my doctor was on that pretty quickly. Yes.
Did you ever do colon hydrotherapy, or was enemas enough to resolve the issue?
No colon.
No colon hypo. Yeah, just big enemas.
Right.
Yeah, we've talked to other pals who've done colon hydrotherapy, and that helped with the impaction. So I guess it depends. Every person is different. I think we really want to stress that.
Yes.
This Q&A is about what happened with Mark and what they did to help him. And I just want to stress everyone is different.
Yes.
Oh yeah, every case.
Yeah, every case is different. But I think the key to it is getting enough hydration.
Very much so.
Very much so.
And it's hard, especially with those that don't have a feeding tube yet, and they're starting to have the issues with the swallowing and the saliva and the aspiration, to where they hesitate. They don't want to drink anything. They just get by with minimum. And that's one of the reasons why that they lose weight too, because they're not able to get the nutrients in.
Right.
And the hydration is so important. I mean, that's what helps flushes all of that, what's taking place in the digestion out.
Yeah. And I actually heard situations where people have had some urinary issues, so they're actually drinking less because of the urinary issue, which they should be drinking more.
Exactly. Right. Yes. It's hard to keep up with it all. It's a cycle. There's no doubt.
Next question. I'm going to go on to the next question. Lisa, what do you think was the most important thing in getting Mark's bowel movements regular? I mean, you mentioned a whole bunch of things. Was there anything else other than that that you felt was really important? That Mark didn't mention.
That he took or still takes helps with the bowels also. But digestive enzymes are very important as far as supplements to make sure that things are broken down. Yeah. The protein's broken down to where it can move through the system.
Yeah, as my doctor explained to me, she said, Mark, you don't have a gallbladder, so you don't have the correct digestive enzymes to break down your food, so you need extra enzymes to digest your food. Mm-hmm. And actually, when I started taking the digestive enzymes, that actually helped me eventually start gaining weight too, because I was absorbing the nutrients, whereas before I wasn't absorbing the nutrients.
Okay, so the next question I have is why don't you just explain what the difference is between digestive enzymes and probiotics? Like, what are digestive enzymes? When do you take them? What are probiotics and prebiotics, and when do you take those?
The digestive enzymes that he takes, he can take with food, and then he also takes it at night. And he takes those to be able to break down the protein so your body's able to rebuild. And the probiotics are to help rebuild the floral in the gut.
Well, the difference is probiotics are enzymes that break down food, as Lisa said, break down food produced by your gallbladder and I think your pancreas. I'm not a doctor, but whereas the probiotics are good bacteria, flora, as she said, that actually work in conjunction with the digestive enzymes to break. So you need both to have a good gut.
That's what he's been taking.
Yes.
The digestive enzymes and the probiotics. Some of the things.
Okay. Good question. So the just to understand the digestive enzymes sort of break them down before they get to the gut, and then the probiotics are actually working on the gut, or the digestive enzymes is working on this particular meal, and the probiotics is working on the gut in general.
Yeah, they
basically work the way that you just
said.
Actually,
yeah. You're right. I mean, when you eat, let's say you eat a lot of protein, your body responds to that by excreting the enzymes that will better help in digestion of whatever you're eating, the protein or whether you're eating veggies or things that are hard to, might be hard to digest. it's amazing. You're an amazing machine. And when you don't have a gallbladder, there's enzymes missing to digest the food properly. So.
Okay. So a couple of questions just related to this have been coming up on the chat. Scott, do you want to, doesn't matter. What digestive enzymes do you take is one question. And I think the answer to that is in the blog, right?
Yes, it's on the listing of Mark's protocol.
Right. And what's the name of the one that's listed?
Berdazymes.
Berdazymes.
BYMES.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I've read, okay, so we use liquid, one of them said we use liquid magnesium and coconut oil and added Marilax. That was from another pal's. Just a couple of drops of liquid magnesium was actually more effective than some of a larger amount of the other magnesium.
You know, we do have the Leap to be Fit actually does have magnesium in it. And Lisa also supplements me with magnesium. I guess that also too probably helps in the bowel movement. Matter of fact, I know it does. Yes.
Right. Which amino acids? I think we're talking about the amino acids on Leap to be Fit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. One of the questions, I'm just going to go backtrack a little bit about what swallowing exercises specifically did you do? Or you got those from your PT, right? And your OT?
Speech therapy.
Speech therapy.
Yes. Yeah, they would actually, after they did the swallow study, I've had, how many swallow studies have I had? I don't know, 20 swallow studies or more over the years. And after each one, they said, okay, Mark, we got to adapt. Now you have to tuck your chin while I was swallowing. You have to tuck your chin and swallow 5 times, depending on whatever you're eating. Like, let's say for things like peanut butter, we're getting stuck on my epiglottis. So they could see that in the swallow study. Well, I had to swallow like 5 times to clear, and then use nectar thickness, when I was swallowing. But that quickly, the swallowing, once the dysphagia started, that quickly digressed really fast, and where I went to the feeding tube pretty quickly. I mean, even during that period when I was eating a little bit, I couldn't drink thin liquids, and Lisa would give me water through my peg tube to aid in, my bowel movement. The more water I have, I think she was giving me 68 ounces of water a day through my peg tube. Which was helpful.
Okay.
Because I couldn't swallow thin liquids.
Okay. They want to know how long you took everything. How long did you take Leap to be Fit? How long did you do your regular supplements that's on the blog on healingals.org? How long did you do that protocol, and then how long since you added Leap to be Fit?
He's been doing the supplements, the majority of the supplements, the plant-based ones, for well over 6 years.
7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
And then Leap to be, L-Serene was introduced first, and that's been about 3.5 years ago.
2016.
And then 2017, so 3 years ago, is when the blend amino acids, Leap to be Fit, was introduced to us. And he started that with 1 scoop a day. And then a year later, we changed it up and started doing the 2 scoops a day, and mainly on the empty stomach. At first, it wasn't necessarily on the empty stomach, but things were still moving forward. So when he changed it to the 2 scoops a day on the empty stomach is when we really saw a big difference. Yeah,
not as at the rapid a pace as when I was taking the amino acids without on an empty stomach. Again, going back to the enzyme and deal, because if you eat and your body sends out an enzyme, let's say if you eat a steak and your body puts out the enzymes to digest that steak. Well, if you're going to take the Leap, which is amino acids, it doesn't absorb all the good amino acids in the Leap to be Fit, because it's actually prepped your stomach for digesting a steak. So by having the taking all the good amino acids on an empty stomach, it digests them. Absorption rate of that is almost 100%, rather than maybe 20%.
Great. So just to be clear, you did the Soleil Natural protocol, which was healing the gut and just getting the nutrition and, limiting. Obviously, he doesn't eat grains, right? You don't eat grains and dairy anymore, or
No.
Mostly.
Dairy.
Well, dairy, I have lactose intolerance, so that wasn't an issue. So, that wasn't really ever a big part of my diet. But the grains, the gluten-free, is something that Lisa thought, and the doctor thought was a great idea, to eliminate that from my diet, which we have. We did that.
All right, so let's get into the money issue. One of the questions is, how did you afford? I mean, we're looking at your protocol. If you look at the blog on Mark's blog on healingals.org, this has got how much do all of your supplements cost you for Mark? Mark's part of the supplements per month, and how are you able to afford that?
Supplements we look at it as part of our budget for our foods, because it is expensive. It could be anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month, depending on where we're at with having to replenish these supplements. We've done fundraisers. There's families that have stepped up to the plate, and they do it. I've had other pals speak to us about it. Oh, we just got supplements in from their aunt and uncle. So other ones have stepped up to the plate and contributed accordingly to where, some days we didn't think we were going to have the extra funds to be able to pay for it. But, like we've done fundraisers, that was a big one. GoFundMe accounts, and just, trying to do the best we can so we can make sure that he does get the supplements that he needs. Well,
I was an electrical engineer for 28 years, working out of New Orleans, doing consulting work with Shell offshore. So we had pretty good savings, but I will tell you, this is a very expensive disease.
Yes.
And so after 9 years now, that's pretty much gone, savings. So, we continue to do the supplements, but like Lisa says, now it's just part of our daily budget. Before it was like taking money out of savings to pay for this. Now it's just, hey, we have to budget to keep doing it, to keep moving forward.
So for everything, for all the Soleil products and for your Leap to be Fit, and you're saying $800 a month? Is that every month?
$800, $900 a month. After I broke it down, because there's other things that's on the protocol that he takes also. So I added those those extra things in when you asked me about the cost. There's things that, he does CoQ10 that's, I order. He does the omega-7, which is sea buckthorn, and that's extra. So yeah, it all adds up, but so far it's been worth it. I mean, it is a very expensive disease, but you just try to find a way, and you just, people do step up to the plate when you least expect. We're like, wow, okay, that was God. That just happened. That came through for us. Okay, it's just continuous.
Yeah, I think the GoFundMe is a great idea for those that can't afford supplements. I know a lot of people that have gotten their supplements completely paid for with their GoFundMe page, and that's what they use the money for, and they tell everybody, this is what I'm using the money for.
Right.
Most people have friends and family. If you can get someone to set it up for you, it's a really nice way for people to be able to help.
Right.
Because people are helpless. They want to help. They want to do something.
And they don't know how. And they always ask, what can we do? How can we help? And we're just like, we have supplements that we take, that Mark takes. You want to contribute? We have an account, just, or like I said, one of our pals, they would just text us and show us a picture and say, hey, my aunt and uncle just sent me this. This is my husband's supply for the month. And it was nothing just a couple of the supplements that they're taking for that month. It doesn't have to be the whole protocol. It's just those little added extra things that people have like said, here, I've got this, you know, or here's this, you know, and it's just, you know, working together. And people, like you said, they do want to help, but they don't know how. So you just have to say, hey, this is what I'm needing.
And you have to humble yourself, which was hard for me. I will tell you, Patricia, because I was making a lot of money. I'd been working as an electrical engineer for a while. You have to humble yourself, and it was hard for me to sometimes people would ask, what can I do to help? And before I would say, oh no, I have this. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, you could help. Mm-hmm. Here's what you can do to help. Right. And people would do it because they're willing. They want to do anything to help your friends, your family.
Yeah, and you had people, what impressed me is that you had people not only contribute to your GoFundMe page, but you also had friends, neighbors, and family. So it's really hard. You were down to one income because you had to stop working, and Lisa had to continue working for the insurance and obviously to just take care of the family. So Lisa has continued working. And what amazes me is that, and I want to talk a little bit about this caregiving thing, because Mark stayed at home and yet he was unable to work, able to move, and needed 24/7 care. And Lisa was off working full time and would be gone for days at a time. So that's another question. So one of the things that the people that weren't able to contribute, people would contributed time to help take care of you, Mark. So, so I have two questions. I want to finish off the supplement question first and then go into the caregiving question. So the supplement was, I've had like 4 people ask the same question, so I want to get all of it. How long did it take before you started seeing results from the supplements? How did you know that there was some kind of results? Another person said, look, I'm feeling better with my supplements, but I'm not getting any ALS reversal. So can you answer that?
Well, it wasn't quick. It wasn't you take and 2 weeks later, things are working, but Lisa was determined. And we started with the L-Serene as per some recommendations that Dr. Bedlack had given everybody, really, through ALS.
But actually, let's go back, because you actually started before this. You started with the Sole products. You actually started with regular supplements first.
Right.
And then you found the Sole products and say, well, wait a minute, this looks good. So you added, you broadened his supplementation a lot more. And then you added the L-Serene. And then you added the Leap to Be Fit. So this has really been a process.
It has been. Yeah, Lisa's with friends' help, and with angels in our life. We have a nurse practitioner friend that recommended I was taking L-Serene, and she knew. She's like, well, Mark, if you're taking L-Serene, or she told Lisa, if he's taking L-Serene, I know of this product that has multiple amino acids in it. So let's try that. So it was basically I was willing to try anything, and so was Lisa. I mean, I was willing to try anything that would help. And,
Lisa, how much experimentation was involved in choosing supplements? And you're still changing things up now. So how do you decide between the two of you? Because I know how do you decide what to take, how much to take, when to back off, when to increase?
Oh, that's just like kind of reading his body. But it's just, just kind of find your base at first. If you get some supplements like we chose, I wanted to do things more natural. The plant-based supplements were more appealing to me as far as the body was able to absorb. I could get it into him a little bit easier than him having to break down and process pills and things like that. And so I just feel that his body absorbed those, and it helped build that foundation. And that was several years of taking the plant-based supplements, omegas, which are very important. It's important from the brain. Those supplements make the mind and body connection, and those two go hand in hand. If your mind is not accepting what's taking place, it's also affecting the digestive system. And you have to get the digestive system moving and things, the bowels moving, because whatever goes in has to come out. And so then the things start healing. And then when that takes place and we added some more of the, like the amino acids, that's when I think it got an aha moment. Okay, we've got good nutrients, we've got a baseline here, and then we're adding more to it to where his body was able to absorb those amino acids, and things started moving forward.
And I think the reason she chose the plant-based omegas, for instance, I'm just going to use this, instead of like fish oil or something like that, is because she didn't want to introduce mercury, heavy metals into my body. And so the plant-based omegas are what the fish eat to get the omegas in their body, like the, what is it, sea buckhorn and all that.
The fish goes to the plant and brings it back to the body. So we were not using the middleman, I guess you could say.
The fish.
We just went with the plant. And so.
And she would adapt. If I had to take antibiotics, she would increase my probiotics. Because when I take antibiotics, it wipes your body out. So I guess your question was, how does it change? Well, it changed with the situation. You know, if I was on antibiotics, she would increase the probiotics. And, you know, as things change, I have kidney stones, she would, you know, different things. There's a lot of urinary issues, tract issues from being being sedimentary. I had a lot of kidney stones that she had to deal, things of that they had to deal with. But, and that was all just adapting to the situation.
Yeah, I think this is a long road, and I think that, and for you guys, it was definitely a long road, because even though you were taking all these supplements, your ALS symptom, you felt better, and yet your ALS symptoms continued to get worse. Like you were saying, your stomach felt better, your body, you felt like you just felt better, and yet you still ended up not being able to move and not being able to breathe or swallow.
Right.
Yeah.
So even regardless of the supplements. So it was kind of, you guys were very, very patient. And I want to ask you about the vent as well. You were very patient, saying, okay, we're going to just keep going with this. I mean, 3 years on a vent is a long time before you really started noticing, hey, wait a minute, something's now working.
Right. The first thing, and I think it was part of your question, the first thing I noticed, and we said this in the video, Lisa would suction me a lot. And, you know, I told her through the Toby that, hey, I'm able to swallow my saliva. So that was the first thing I noticed as being an improvement, where I wasn't drooling and she wasn't having to suction me. I was able to swallow the saliva. And that was my first, you know, epiphany or whatever, that, hey, okay, something's changing in my body. And this is probably about 6 months after we started taking the 8 months, the L-Serene and the Leap to Be Fit in combination.
Okay. So I'm going to go, there's a bunch of other questions. Let's talk about the caregiver. Go ahead, Scott.
There's a question from Sandy. Did you ever lose your speech entirely?
Did I ever lose my speech entirely? Yeah, I mean, I could still make sounds, but yes. Because I had a cuff that they put in on my trach that I could inflate, or Lisa could inflate it or deflate it, and I could make, you know, I got to a point where I could make guttural sounds with it deflated. When it deflated, it allowed probably 30% of the air to go across my vocal cords, which, and, you know, some of it was understandable, you know, yeah, no, whatever. I mean, it was not, you know, but, so I guess I was never completely 100% silent. I could make some kind of noise, but it got to a point where she just left it closed and we went to the Toby Dynabox. Yeah.
Okay. I still have a whole bunch of questions left. So let's ask one of the questions is caregiving. So I want to ask this was sent in. How did you manage? That must have been very difficult. You had personal care for 3 years, which means you were needing help with the most intimate of things, like showers and going to the bathroom, having a bowel movement, like everything. How did you handle, and you had you had a professional caregiver for part of the day, but and Lisa, but then you also had friends, family, and neighbors doing this. How did you handle that, Mark? Because that must have been really difficult.
Well, your modesty, your modesty just goes by the wayside.
That's what he said when he was diagnosed with ALS. That just kind of went out.
That just went out the window. I mean,
it's anatomy.
People just. I said initially, and I was a bit apprehensive about like my best friend, like giving me a shower, wiping me, doing whatever. But his comment actually helped me, and he's like, "Mark, it's body, I mean, body's a body, and I'm taking care of you. It's not like I'm checking you out or anything. So, hey, we're just trying to help you." And he made me feel like, I mean, I couldn't do anything about it. So, you just have to go with it.
His saying was always like, you ain't no poodle, you a big dog. You can handle this.
I can handle it.
We can do this together.
Yeah.
So,
that was my friend.
Yeah.
He
but
spent
it
a lot
was
of time.
people that was in and out. It was a revolving door. We had a schedule that we tried to keep up with for who was coming, who was going. And then when I left, before I left, I prepared everything, his supplements, everything, as much as I could, because when I left, I didn't know if I was coming back in 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days. So I knew whoever was there, if they could read, they could basically be able to go down my list and say, oh, okay, he's getting this, this, and this, and it's all right here. And if it wasn't prepared, I had it set up to where each bottle was labeled AM, PM, to where they would be able to figure it out. And I just kind of went on a wing and a prayer and said, okay. And Mark was like, we got this. And he bonded with the ones that would come in. Mark's very personable, and he made them feel like, you got this, you're going to be here with me, I'm going to be here with you, and we're all going to make it through.
Yeah.
And we just had a schedule. I mean, a revolving schedule. I would have to fill in the blanks of who can come and who couldn't come and so forth. And then there was a time that we did hire someone, especially for the times that I wasn't going to be there. And she would cover the majority of the time, and then others would come in and kind of pick up the pieces. And in the meantime, there was PT coming in, OT coming in, respiratory
and the aide would bathe me 3 times a week.
Yeah, we had an aide that would come like 2 or 3 times during the week.
Yeah. So, and
it was a group effort, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
And that sounds like that having volunteers come in, friends, neighbors, and family members probably also took a little bit of ease. That means you had to hire people for fewer hours.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it gets to the point where it's impossible.
It is. And
you
then
can't afford it.
And not only that, you just, for someone to show up or not show up could have been a big worry. It was a worry because, their kids get sick, or, you just have to put your trust in that person of them actually showing up.
She always had a plan B.
Somehow or another. And it worked. Yeah.
Lisa, how did you get the confidence? He was on a vent. I mean, he's got this machine, and you're like, boy, if this isn't adjusted right, if this isn't right, something serious could happen. How did you have the confidence? How much training did you give people before you would leave them alone with Mark? Yeah. And, how much trust did you have, and how much did you worry?
She did can I say this? 'Cause, I'm going to let her talk, but she did situational things. She's like, okay, if this happens and this alarm goes off, and she'd make it go off, what do you do?
Right.
Okay, what do you do?
Through it. Yeah.
And
everyone was
some people would panic. Like, I don't know. Right. So she'd have to show them. And so she's a very good patient teacher. And I would just sometimes inside, although I couldn't laugh outside, I would just laugh internally, just like, man, she's a lot more patient than I would be. She'd have to go over it like 5 times with some people.
And then sometimes I would just back off and let them try to get the feel of what's taking place. Yeah. So they felt better about it.
And she was there.
So they did some practice with you there. And some of them, they probably wouldn't even come until they felt comfortable. How did you guys judge when they were comfortable enough to come take a
Most people
shift.
tell you when they're comfortable. They'll tell you when you're comfortable.
Right.
She even told him how to, okay, if his vent fails, and this panicked a lot of people, she showed him how to do the ambubag.
Yeah,
So
we practice
with the ambubag.
Right.
So a lot of people.
I had to go through that also. I was like, an ambubag? You're kidding me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we carried it around with us everywhere we went. It was in his backpack.
Yeah, until we finally got 2 vents, because we had an issue that a vent did fail, and that situation did come up. And after that, the doctor applied to Medicare, and we ended up with 2 vents. In Louisiana, which is different from where we live in Florida. In Florida, they give you 2 vents. They give you a backup. But in Louisiana, they only gave you 1.
Right.
But after our doctor petitioned the, Medicare, and she told them what happened. I guess she went through the situation. They agreed and paid for 2 vents.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Yeah, and the ambubag, just to be clear on what an ambubag is, it's a manual vent. Is that what it is, where you have to pump it? How does that work?
It looks like a bubble.
A big ball.
A big ball. It's clear, and it just clipped onto his trach. And you would press it like you see in the movies or something, someone trying to be revived. And you would just press it as is. It was lungs.
15
it was
times
a constant
counting.
movement that you had to go to make sure that he was getting the air that he needed.
I remember her telling him, you go 15 times a minute, watch the clock. 15 times a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I'm going to ask some of the questions that I've got questions in the question box and questions on the chat. So let me see. Let me start. I'm going to usually start. So one of the questions, I have a couple of questions. Has Mark ever had problems with saliva running out of his mouth like crazy? I'm assuming that's a yes.
Yes.
I'm just going to do a couple of, go ahead.
I used to wear a bib. She'd put a towel around me.
Yeah, we would just try to, but then you started, was it with the Nudexa that helped with that?
Actually, I was in a clinical trial with Nudexa at Carolina Medical Center, and the Nudexa actually helped with the drooling. It dried my mouth up some, and I think that was the main medication we used, and that helped dramatically because it has some antihistamines or whatever it has in Nudexa, but it helped dry my mouth up. Yes.
Okay, great. Again, this is a question people asking, did you have improvement, stagnation? Is that kind of how it was? Did you go backwards? I mean, what was the recovery process? And this was long. Understand, this is a matter of 3 years. I mean, of experimentation, and then finally you got results. So with the addition of the L-serine and the LEAP, but if you hadn't been doing all the other things, the LEAP and the L-serine, let's be really clear, that was not, from what you had told me, that wouldn't have been enough. You need to do the whole program.
Well, I'm going to just repeat. I'm going to repeat something that we actually heard during the Dr. Bedlack presentation. Temporary improvements from ALS are not uncommon, okay, which is why he has to watch you for such a long time. He actually talks about temporary improvement and shows graphs and stuff, and during his, so yes, it was sometimes try not to get frustrated that you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but at least you're taking at least 1 step forward. And so things would improve, and so it seems like sometimes every day things were different. And then but you're constantly, the progression was not like a straight line. It was more like this, but it was going up. The average was getting better. I'd have where my vital capacity would get better at times towards the end, and then it would get worse, and they were measuring it with, one of the questions here, how will they measure they were measuring it with the computer, the forced vital capacity with a computer at ALS clinic. It's not like they were doing it with this small little device. They were measuring it with a big computer.
Yeah,
so,
that was another question I have open as well, is what is forced vital capacity? How is it measured? And did you measure it like every time you went to the ALS clinic? Like how often did you measure it?
Every time we went to the clinic. And they did bring a portable device. They do have a device. Well, they measure three things: how hard pressure you can suck, which I think that's maximum input pressure, and then how blowing out the pressure, how hard you can blow out, and then they measure. You got to breathe out, and they measure. You have to suck in, and they measure how much volume that your diaphragm can pull into your lungs, which is, a normal person breathes, depending on the size of the person, they can breathe in about 3.5 liters. Well, when my vital capacity was at its worst, 8, I basically wasn't breathing in anything. I mean, there was nothing coming in and out. And then last summer, when it got to 90, I was doing about 2.5 liters. So that's how they measure it. And this is all empirical data, not somebody's, something that somebody's judging. They're measuring it through a volumetric, device that they can see what the air that you're pulling in a pressure device.
Right. So this is another question that came up, is how this must have been a very difficult decision. And we talked about this in the first video as well. The decision to go on the trach, and then after 3 years, you were able to get it removed. So can you talk a little bit more about that decision, how you came to the decision? Because a lot of people, it's a big decision. There's a lot of pressure by doctors to actually not do the vent.
Well,
to just die instead. So I think that's, I know. So go ahead, Mark, if you could answer.
Our pulmonologist was, even though he's a wonderful doctor, but he says, Mark, I will tell you, by getting a trach, you're changing the course of this disease, and you're bringing in things that infections, and because you're putting a foreign object in your body. So, you have changed the natural course of the ALS disease. And initially, and I thought and prayed about it, prayer was big here. I have 2 daughters, and they're having children, and I still had hope, even though at that time I wasn't getting better. When I obviously got the trach, I was going down pretty fast. And it was not a decision that we made in 10 minutes. It took several weeks for me thinking and praying about it, Lisa and I talking about it. And I'm like, I'm going to hang around a little bit more. Maybe there's going to be some trials that I'll be able to be in, which they don't allow you in trials with a vent, but not most trials. And I decided that I wanted to see my grandkids, as long as I could see them, and my parents are still living, so, and they're in their 80s, so I wanted to be around my parents and be with my wife. So I decided to get the trach, and at first I thought it was going to be a burden, but Lisa basically had, I call it, intervention, and everybody reassured me that this is not a burden, Mark. What you have in your mind that you're going to be a burden, no, you're not a burden. We want you alive. And so that was part of my decision too, because I didn't want to be a burden on anybody.
I think that's a lot of pals have that thing that they feel like, well, this is costing so much and it's so much trouble to take care of me. Yeah. Maybe people are just better off without me. But when you talk to the family members, virtually 100% of the time they say, we're so glad that he's still here. And especially when you've got even adult children, but the children say, I'm glad to have dad around to talk to and get advice from. Right. Or mom around, 99% of the time they want you there. Mm-hmm. Yes. Like they don't care. It's your mind and your soul that's still with them.
Right.
And I had banked my voice. So through the Toby Dynavox was my old voice. When I did speak through the Toby, it was my old voice coming out. So that was reassuring to everybody too. And if I wouldn't have got the trach, that would have, So yeah, they convinced me that no, Mark, you're not going to be a burden, because that was the main thing on my mind. I didn't want to be a burden to anybody, and I was ready. A lot of this is faith. Okay, I prayed, and I told them at that time, I'm ready to go home. But then
But
through.
he also said, in the back of his mind, he was like, there's going to be a cure. And I want to be around when that cure comes through. So
I hope.
if this gives me a little bit more time, then let's go that route. Because if he wouldn't have gotten the trach, he wouldn't have lasted another 3 weeks. And he wouldn't have had that chance of, there's not a cure yet. They're working on it still, but things have changed in the meantime of being able to function again.
Yeah.
And if he wouldn't have got the trach, he wouldn't have been here.
The three things that I in retrospect, I look back on, I had hope, I had my faith, but then by this intervention, I realized that, boy, I have a whole lot of love too. So hope, faith, and love.
Yeah, obviously, and now looking back on it, obviously you're glad you spent those 3 years, because now you're still young and you have another several decades ahead of you.
I hope and pray.
So, okay, so that was one of the questions. Scott, do you want to ask some of the questions if you see something that's relevant to the topic? One of the questions that came out was Dr. Bedlack. Is he treating ALS patients that are in the advanced stages? In general, just to let you know, Dr. Bedlack is a neurologist. He's not trained in functional medicine. He is amazing as a person, as a doctor, and what he's doing for ALS and studying for these reversals. I have so much respect for him. He's studying them. He's getting down to the science of exactly what's happening with these reversals. He's doing studies on why certain people are reversing. But as far as most of your help healing Mark's body did not come from Dr. Bedlack. It came from these holistic professionals that you worked with. So maybe just review again. This was in the first video, but review again the main, and it's actually in the blog as well. You used a naturopath. You used, why don't you just kind of review everybody that you used? We had naturopath, you had a nurse practitioner who was a friend, you had your concierge doctor who was a traditional MD, but did a lot of research for you.
And Lisa's also a certified natural health practitioner, so she knows a lot about herbs and holistic medicine. She's not a naturopath doctor, but she is a certified
doing
natural
our
health
own research. That's huge. Asking questions amongst each other, different pals and cows, just educating yourself. Google is out there. It can lead you down different bunny trails, but if you have a question, ask. I always say there's no dumb question, just ask it. And if I don't have the answer, someone else should probably have the answer, or we'll research it and see what's there. But it's very, it's the way to go as far as doing your own homework, your own research.
Lisa actually taught the naturopath some things during this time that Lisa researched. She'd run by our naturopath doctor, and she'd investigate it. She'd come back to Lisa and she's like, "You're right. That's a good way to go." Right. And then,
that's most of the people that we have spoken to that have reversals have done a ton of their own research, and they have also asked the naturopath, or they had a functional MD and a naturopath, they asked 2 or 3 people, and they would get different opinions and then make a decision because it was something they read about. And so that's another thing that is amazing to me, because every single one of them have taught their naturopath, have taught their functional medical doctor, have taught their chiropractor thing. They have learned things from their medical professionals, and they have also taught their medical professionals a lot, because those professionals say, well, wait, let me look into this. I hadn't really thought about that. And then they'll come back a few days later and say, you know what? I think we should do this. But it came from the family, not from, it wasn't the medical professional's idea. It was actually the pal's idea or the family member's idea.
Right. Recently, real quickly, I was with my MBVIP concierge doctor, my general practitioner, and she said, "Mark, every time you come in here, I learn something." And she said, well, why the L-serine working? I'm like, well, BMAA. Did you Google BMAA, Guam research, green algae? I grew up on a farm. I was exposed. We had a farm, a horse farm. I swam in ponds with green algae, and she looked it up, and sure enough, she's like, well, wow, L-serine and BMAA, and Dr. Bedlack talks a lot about that too, in that Guam study. And there's a lot of people in the U.S. that have exposed to green algae, and L-serine, can be helpful. I did see another question, Tish. I want to bring this up real quick.
Yeah, and Scott, go ahead and pipe in as well. So go ahead.
I saw a question about that had I ever been tested or treated for Lyme disease. Yes, I was tested several times, and it's not always, the reason I say several times because it's not always, the Lyme test is not always, you can get false positive, false negative. So they did it several times. I never did go through a Lyme protocol because I never tested positive for Lyme.
Okay. It's interesting because most PALs actually do test positive for Lyme, but again, it depends on how active it is. Yeah. And I think your overall protocol actually treats any viruses, not just Lyme.
That's right.
So, okay. And Scott, if you see questions I haven't answered, and also there are quite a few questions that we haven't answered, just to be really clear.
Well, just because of time, we can kind of put some questions in combination here. Like any leg stiffness or knee locks? What did you do for muscle spasms? And also, are you still assisted? Are you still using a wheelchair? How were they helpful with those devices or a walker? Those are kind of common.
It was a progressive thing from wheelchair. This time last year, I was still kind of using the wheelchair on and off. Yeah, I mean, for distances, like if Lisa wanted to go take a walk, I had to go with her in the wheelchair. I couldn't walk long distances, but it progressed to now I still use a walker because I have balance issues, and the therapists were working on that really aggressively until this coronavirus thing came up. So I still use a walker, yes, every day, everywhere I go, because I have a slight left on my, my right foot. I still have a little foot drop on my right foot.
So the AFOs come in very handy with him.
AFOs, yes.
Are you still using the AFOs?
I do, yes. I use it on my right foot.
Yeah.
In my tennis shoe. I put it underneath the cushion in my tennis shoe. It wraps around my calf, and it keeps me from tripping. Because you can trip even though you're using a walker. You can still trip. And so I do use the AFO. Not around the house as much because we've got the house kind of handicap and anti-Mark cracking his head proof. But when I step outside that door, I absolutely do have it on.
So has your drop foot improved? Obviously it got worse, right? The drop foot got worse before you were in the wheelchair, and then it got better. And then, you know what I mean? Like, are you sort of in the process of getting better? Was it worse at what point? Is it better now than it used to be?
It's better now than it used to be, yes. But I still have it. But, hey, I'm not complaining. I mean, I went from, I could live, people live with a lot worse than what I'm living with every day. So,
Well, I like the fact that you said, well, your goal is first of all, you want to be able to run again, and you would like to be able to ski again. So that's your goal.
Yeah, I want to be able
you've recovered so much already.
Yeah, because I used to be able to, I used to go heli skiing. I skied from a young age and hit many a black diamonds and, double, you name it. I've skied all over. And I want to be able to do that. That's one of my goals again. I've already skydived. That was a goal. I have jumped out of, I was pushed out of an airplane.
That was before he got the trach.
Right before I got the trach. Because I figured after I got the trach, that was it. So,
although he still wanted to go skydiving with the vent. I'm like, really, Mark?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't. No. They said that was against their protocol to go up in an airplane with a vent on, with the trach on. So before I got the vent, months before, really when my breathing, it was bad, but I was able to stay off long enough, even though I about passed out, but that's okay. Because I was determined that I was going to, before I got the vent, and this was months before the vent, that I was going to be pushed out of an airplane. I didn't jump out of an airplane. I had somebody on my back, and they pushed me out the airplane.
Right, and they were attached to you the whole time.
Yeah, it was a tandem jump.
It was a tandem jump, because you couldn't move at that point.
I could not, no.
And that was part of him raising awareness for ALS. It was an actual ALS event. There was others that did it that day also.
Yeah.
Instead of doing a walk, they decided to go jump out of an airplane to raise money.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
To follow up on that combination question, what do you do for knee lock, leg stiffness, and what were you doing for your muscle spasms?
Yes. I still have muscle spasms.
Yeah.
I still have fasciculations. Lisa, we videotape them sometimes because they get pretty dramatic. But for the longest time, I had no fasciculations. It got to the point where the fasciculations, when all the muscles were atrophying, they had quit fasciculating. That was one other thing I noticed when I started improving. I had massive amounts of fasciculations. And the way the doctors explained it, because they did EMGs, and we'd have to draw a diagram, but quickly, where the motor neurons were connected to the muscle, they were dead, and they had pulled back from the muscle. As for some reason, I had motor neurons branch out and touch from one that was still living, that touched it, grew out to another muscle, and my local, because I just had one, last December, an EMG, and the motor neuron had split out from a live one, and it actually touched the muscle, so it branched out. And he said, Mark, that's pretty amazing.
Wow.
But I don't know what that's attributed to.
That's
amino
really
acids. So, and then as my muscles got larger, the motor neurons were able to reconnect. Does that make sense? Because they pull back when your muscles atrophy. And then once your muscle starts getting bigger because it's being helped by other motor neurons, this is not me. I'm not a doctor. I'm an engineer. This is what the doctor explained to me. It's something that Dr. Richard Bedlack actually shows in some of his slides now, how motor neurons are on people with some reversal or ALS reversals are reconnecting, or branching off and reconnecting. So
right. So fasciculations actually and muscle cramping isn't such a bad sign, because it actually gets worse as you're deteriorating, and then as you start improving, you get more of them. But it's not necessarily a bad sign. I have read that magnesium helps.
It does, yes.
And people have told us, pals have told us that magnesium is considerably very helpful for both spasms and fasciculations. And if you go to ALS Winners, Kay Cherry has 3 different kinds of magnesium that she has found that are working for Kim. So Kim actually takes 3 different kinds of magnesium. That's how so important.
We have was it transdermal? That she sprays the magnesium on me, and your skin absorbs it.
And it does not go through the digestive system. It goes straight in the bloodstream through the skin. So you're not, overtaking or not taking enough of magnesium through the digestive system to mess with that.
Yeah.
So if you do it on the skin, then it's going to absorb.
The only thing bad about that is we have handbars everywhere that are stainless steel in the bathroom. And if you spray the magnesium around it, magnesium will rust stainless steel. So we have rust spots everywhere on our stainless, but she sprays me down with the magnesium. Scott asked about my knees and legs locking. Yes, I did. My knees were locked in position. And they were so painful that, what was his name? I don't remember the doctor's name, but he would give me injections into my knees to try to help with the pain. It was really bad pain. And I don't like to take pain medication. I don't like the way all that makes me feel. So I also learned self-hypnosis. That could be a whole nother hour of what a doctor taught me. But yeah, the locking of the joints was a serious issue. Even when I was recovering, because the joints hadn't been moved in so long, it was like you being in a cast for 6 weeks, or imagine not moving something for years and then try to move it again where your joints are locked up.
And then it was bone on bone.
Yeah. So yes, in answer to the question, absolutely.
Okay. So this is another question that actually came in beforehand. So I want to answer that. 2 more questions that came in ahead of time that we haven't answered yet. And then we're going to prioritize the Q&A questions over the chat questions, just to let everybody know. So if your question is in the chat and not in the Q&A, you can bring it over to the Q&A. Since you mentioned self-hypnosis, how did you manage to stay positive? I mean, you couldn't move. You were completely dependent for 3 years. How on earth did you stay positive through all of this?
Well, it wasn't easy. Initially, they had to give me some medication because I was having serious anxiety, being trapped. Being an engineer, I mentioned this in the video, being an engineer, I was always thinking in analytical terms. And to survive that time in my life, I had to change my thinking to more of a philosophical and theological thinking, not overanalyze everything that was going on, and try to find peace. And I prayed a lot. God helped me. God give me peace and relaxation. And at least we found a gentleman in what is it, a neuropsychologist, and he actually taught me. It took a long time because I didn't believe in hypnosis until one day he hypnotized me, and whatever, I was just laying there, and it felt like 2 minutes, and I told him, well, when are you going to hypnotize me? And he's like, well, Mark, you've been out for 45 minutes. And so he taught me how to do it myself. And I still, to this day, when I'm having pain, especially with pain, I'm having pain in joints, because I do have pain in joints. I go to my, I hate to say it, but it is sort of a happy place, and kind of escape from what's happening, try to tune my mind out. And it's not easy. It took years of trying to do this, to train my brain to try to focus or refocus on something else rather than the pain.
It's kind of like a meditation also.
Meditation.
Yes.
That's what Lisa says I do, meditate.
Right.
Okay. Another one is, this is really important. Why did you stop Riluzole? And then what happened, and how soon did you notice? How long were you on it? What made you decide to get off of it? And did you notice anything when you did get off of it?
Well, when I was on the Riluzole until through the time I had the trach. And if you read about Riluzole, well, my doctor reminded me of this. I hadn't read it, but my neurologist said, okay, Mark, Riluzole really only keeps you from getting a trach for it extends that for maybe 2 or 3 months. He said, and your liver enzymes are so horrible that you're turning yellow, you're jaundice. He said, so, okay, the risk reward here, you have a trach, your liver enzymes are horrible. And so once they put me off the Riluzole, my liver enzymes improved dramatically. So I had to get off the Riluzole. It wasn't a choice.
It wasn't really helping.
It wasn't doing
anything. I
already had a trach.
Yeah.
So that's the way the doctor explained it to me. And quite frankly, the way, as bad as it was hurting my liver, I probably would have needed a liver transplant eventually.
Well, and that was Mark's decision as far as he asked the doctor.
I asked.
He says, do I really need to be taking this?
He did.
He questioned him, and that's what they give ALS for the most part. That's all they have to give. And Mark had already been through the process of, okay, it's supposed to give me 3 more months, but I'm already doing the trach. I'm already doing the peg tube. I'm already doing this, and it's where's my 3 months? And so he asked him. That's right. You're right. That's great. I'm thankful.
Where's my 3 months?
He asked him. He says, so I've already gone down this road, and do I really need to keep taking this, especially when it's, not good for my liver?
Right. And now in retrospect, I do remember that the doctor said, well, it will definitely help your liver enzymes.
So
that's where I went with, that's where I
he's been off
focus.
of it for 2 years almost.
2 years I've been off the riazole.
It's interesting. Most of our ALS reversals did not go on the road. Either they didn't go on it at all, or they went on it for a short period of time. Because once you start doing the research, what they found is that the most important thing for detoxing and everything is a healthy liver. So if you're damaging the liver with the riluzole, it's almost like you're working against your body's. You're trying to heal the body, but you're working against something that's healing the body. So. That was a question. And did you notice any difference when you went off of it for the second part of that question?
The liver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yellow?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I felt totally different, and it got to the point where the whites of my eyes were turning yellow. So that was jaundice, and they used to try to stick me by a window or something, because that's what they were saying do, like babies, stick you by a window, get some sunshine or whatever. And that's pretty much all they really could do. And so when I guess in retrospect, I did kind of initiate that conversation with the doctor, and he agreed totally. He said, boy, this would really, and it was like a month, maybe a month and a half, my liver enzymes were back to normal. Yeah. So.
Yeah. This is a very personal decision. I think that everyone is different. And I think, speaking to your holistic doctor, speaking to your neurologist, speaking to, and doing a ton of research, this is what it takes. It's a very individualized decision. What you do. I can just tell you what happened with most of our reversals. They didn't, or they went on it for a period of time and they actually felt negative health effects. And they said, wait a minute, I'm in it for the long term. And if I'm in it for the long term, but on the other hand, if it helps people, then absolutely. So again, everyone has to make their own decisions on this.
Right.
Absolutely. The other question, one of the questions that came in is, did you do any kind of a detox? Which specific detox, or can you talk a little bit about what you did for detox?
I don't think it was a specific one that we zoned in on. We just were trying to find the right supplements for him to take to balance. And once we felt that, okay, this is the track that we need to be on to balance the body, then the detox kind of sort of fell into place of the hydration, getting the greens in, and going from there. It wasn't like something we went in and, said, we're going to do like a 14-day detox and just blow this out of the water. No, it was building that body up to where it was able to get the nutrients that it needed to be absorbed.
Yeah, previous to the Leap to Be Fit and the L-Serene for 3 years, Lisa had been giving me supplements. And part of these supplements has a detoxing effect.
Right.
So detoxing the liver, cleansing the liver. I take something from my pancreas.
Mm-hmm. To hydrate. It's the greens are very important, I feel, of the way that the route that we took. It all went hand in hand.
Great. So detox, understand, detox is water, food, and all these supplements that you did, that you're doing. There's the detox products and detox things in there.
Right.
So it's very natural. So then the next question I have is...
Well, we can do a couple of rapid fire questions.
Scott, can you ask the methylation question?
Three quick things here. I'm not on that page. I'm on the chat to get the chat ones over. So any supplements that made you worse or give you worse symptoms?
No,
not really.
Lisa,
so all supplements were good.
She gave them to me. She would investigate them.
Right.
Okay. Have you ever tried?
What I'm taking, but she knows.
Right.
So.
Have you ever tried acupuncture?
Acupuncture? No, we really haven't done acupuncture. We've thought about it, but we never did go there.
No.
Okay. Now,
he has done far infrared.
I do. We had in our house. We had a
far infrared sauna.
Yes, and we actually have a biomat that has amethyst stones and far infrared, and he gets on that.
She would put me on that.
Right.
She would put me on that. The mat.
He still does that now.
What did you do, to help you with your sleep?
The sleep.
The sleep. Initially, They put me on Ambien. Unfortunately, that wasn't good. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and thinking I could walk, and kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go to the fridge or do something crazy, but I couldn't do it. So they took me off of that, and
it's hard to silence the mind.
We went to clonazepam for a while, and then when we moved to Florida, which is a medical marijuana state, I use now, and I still do today. I don't like being high or anything, so but I do use the indica on a specific brand, a strain that I found called 9 Pound Hammer. It does just what it says it's going to do. If you take it and you do it sublingually and swash it around your mouth within about 45 minutes, you better be where you're going to sleep. So, and that, I get very lucid dreams, which are wonderful. I dream like I've never dreamed before, which means I'm getting REM sleep, and I wake up refreshed. So yeah, sleeping was a bad issue because I got my nights and days mixed up. Again, we could spend a lot of time on that. So we, like you said, rapid fire.
Right. Okay.
Wonderful.
Do you have a problem with, Indica, if you could type that in the chat so we could get the spelling, or actually if it's not in the blog, I'll put it in the blog. That's going to be better. Do you have a problem with methylation, and have you been confirmed by a doc for any kind of MTHFR mutation?
What is that? Oh, is that genetics?
Yeah, that MTHFR gene.
Yeah, they've done several gene studies. I don't have familiar ALS, okay? And the gene study that Dr. Bedlack has done, he asked me a lot of questions. They've asked me a lot of questions about, but he hasn't told me what because I'm still part of a ROAR and STAR program with Dr. Bedlack, and they don't tell you what the genetic testing is because that's part of their clinical trial. But my local doctor, neurologist, that our clinic is connected to Mass General, they did a gene study and there was nothing abnormal that they saw, but it was limited. It was a limited genetic study.
Right, so you don't know if you have the MTFR or the SOD.
No, I don't have the No, I do not have the SOD1, that's the familiar gene. They told me I do not have that gene. No.
I think you mean familial. Yeah.
Familial.
Familial.
Yeah.
So it's the slow progressing.
Okay. Someone asked really quickly about L-suine. Mark gets his L-suine. The source is at leapxx.com.
I do.
He gets the L-suine and the Leap to be Fit. It's both at leapxx.com. Scott, do you want to? Let's do the Q&A first, Scott. Make sure we got all the Q&A ones first before the chats.
There is a question about the CBD oil. Did you use it, and did it help?
I still do.
Still do. Okay.
CBD. I use Charlotte's Web CBD in conjunction with the the THC, but I use CBD. Matter of fact, and recommended by my doctor. It's okay to use that pretty much all the time. That's not psycho. It's not something that's going to make you high or anything, or mess with your head. And I don't.
Each one's different about the
everybody's
dose.
different.
Somebody
asked what dose. Again, I use how many milligram? I'd have to go look on the bottom, but I actually take about a half a dropper. But I'd have to look at the milligram. But it's Charlotte's Web is what I use.
And you just kind of have to go with what works for you.
I had to experiment.
Our stuff may be different than what works for each other.
The doctor said start off here and go to here, and you'll know.
That's the same thing with the supplements. You start out small and then add to it. Because some started taking the Leap and then they said they had loose bowels and all that. Well, what we've found out with Mark is we back off. And then we gradually add to it. Yeah. That's just a little tidbit there because, the supplements and amino acids, you just kind of go with how the body's going to react to it.
Yeah.
Someone asked, after adding the L-suine and Leap XX, did you notice that you urinate more often?
Actually, I do. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, which is probably a good thing.
One. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it means
good.
the water's moving through your system.
Yes.
You know, and since then I used to have a lot of kidney stones because even though she'd give me water, I didn't seem like I was going to the bathroom enough. And I had a catheter. I had a suprapubic at one time, and then went from condom catheter to all kind of catheters. But I probably had 50 kidney stones.
It's crazy.
Crazy. But since I've been taking the lead, right now my kidneys are clear. My doctor looks. They ultrasound me once every couple of months because I had so many kidney stones. Now I have none. I have 0 kidney stones.
Right.
Interesting. We spent some time, I think it's in 2010, with Deanna Tadone and her father. I have a question here about the AKG. Did you use any of that for fasciculations?
AKG.
I don't recall.
What does it stand? I mean, I do use a compound cream that has ketamine, baclofen.
It's a mixture.
Gabapentin.
His doctor put together, and you have to go to a compound company.
DMSO. It's got some other things in it too that Lisa puts on me, or I put it on me when I'm. The ketamine is obviously for the pain that because my fasciculations always end up with a big Charlie horse cramp. It ends up with a cramp.
Yeah.
So I put that on. Put the cream on, and
it'll relax.
You know, with the gabapentin being neurotin, that helps with the pain. The ketamine kind of numbs the area, and the baclofen relaxes the muscle. So it's kind of I just put the cream on. But you have to go to a compound cream, and if people want to know, we could show them the label on it, and your doctor can easily prescribe it in any compound company. It's not covered by insurance, but it's about $100 per tube.
It depends on where you get it from.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys did not try the Deanna protocol at all, any of the other? Okay.
And we didn't research it that much either.
I
mean, as far as to where we were going to that route. I mean, we read about it and so forth, but it was a lot. It's a lot to take.
You know, here's the deal. I had a friend and that we used to go to support group meetings, and she was big on a Deanna protocol, and I guess I used her experience as okay, well, it's not working for her, and she ended up eventually passed away. So pretty quickly, actually, within a year, and she was on the Deanna protocol. So again, every protocol doesn't work for everybody. I mean, this one protocol does not work for everybody. There's people that have seen great results with the Deanna protocol, but then there's people that, so we basically chose and experimented or Lisa did. To this day, we were talking last night, and I had her laughing. I said, all these supplements you give me I said, if something ever happened to you, please write all this down. And she has. I have no idea what I'm taking, you know. So
read your protocol.
Read the protocol.
Yeah. Well, it also occurred to me that there are a few things that we've mentioned in this video that are not listed in the blog. So I want to make sure after this call, within the next couple of days, everyone will make sure that everything that Mark is taking is in the blog. And understand, by the way, just a little announcement. On Sunday the 24th, we will be doing a Q&A with Stephen Sherry. So that will be on healingals.org. That'll be within the next day or two. So just so people know that's coming up. And similarly, a lot of experimentation. Did you have blood work? And did you get any response? And absolutely, right? That's true. You got blood work, they tested you, and they changed your supplements accordingly.
Absolutely. And I've had multiple MRIs. Actually, the last MRI I had, my neurologist said, Mark, I can see, unfortunately, during this process, you have frontal temporal dementia. He said, and it actually showed, I can see it in your MRI in your frontal lobe. So I didn't know that was visible, but that's something he said, okay, I see why you're having these memory issues. And so that hasn't wrecked. I mean, you know, I deal with it. I depend on her a lot, you know, and she gives me time when I forget stuff. that happened yesterday, because it seems to be short-term memory things. It gives me time to try to find it, and after about a minute, if I can't, she starts giving me hints and, you know, to help with my memory. Because unfortunately, that's another thing with ALS, that he told me that about 80% of people with ALS seem to have some kind of frontal temporal issues.
Yeah, and I had read 10 to 15% pretty consistently. I've never heard the 80% number before. But we do have another pals who we're going to be doing an interview with, who had very severe frontal temporal dementia. And she is much, much better now. She has been going completely holistic. She's added Qigong, and her FTD is amazingly improved.
She's, yes.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, we would definitely like to hear. Yeah. Again, that's just what we do. We'd like to hear from her.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
What she's doing, so we can incorporate that.
So people have asked a couple of other things. I'm just going to give a quick update in this. People have asked, when are the recordings going to be available for the conference? And I can't tell you the number. We lost control of our websites for 3 months. It has just been roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. But we do expect that the roadblocks will be completely gone, and I believe they will be available at the end of April. And I apologize to everyone for this taking so long. We are planning on doing about every 2 weeks another video. So just to let everybody know, another Q&A with a preview video, so you have information ahead of time, and I will get it to everybody. We have a limit of 100 people on our videos right now, so and we have 94 people, so that's been good. Yeah, we were 96 at one point, so we've been right at that limit. So that was kind of part of the reason I didn't want to send it out too low, because I didn't want all these people trying to get on. So I'm going to work on increasing that amount so we can have more people. But for this video, we will limit it to 100. So Scott, do you want to ask what, do you have any infections? I'm actually starting from the bottom for a minute. Yes, you could go onto the whole infection thing, but give it you about 60 seconds, because you had more than your share.
Seconds. One of the reasons that they removed the trach, even though my vital capacity still wasn't probably where it needed to be, but it was the respiratory therapist and the pulmonologist decided that it was, okay, Mark, you can breathe on your own, but you've got Pseudomonas, you've got E. coli, you've got all these things that are colonized because your body is trying to reject this. And once I got to the point that they thought I could breathe on my own, and I was working with a respiratory therapist, they pulled the trach. That was otherwise I'd probably, I probably wouldn't still have it now, but I'd have had it for a longer period of time. Yes.
Yeah, you were in and out of the hospital with infections. And kidney issues and all sorts of things.
I had sepsis. My kidney shut down. I had MRSA. MRSA got in here. You name it, I've had it in there, and it's been the infection. We're on a first name basis with the infectious disease manager, so yeah, it was crazy. And a lot of it was because anytime you put in, like he said, you put a foreign object in your body, your body's gonna try to reject it, and bacteria build up on it, and it colonizes. So yeah, so that was horrible. Yeah, I was in the hospital summer before last. It seemed like I spent the whole summer in ICU.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to finish up. Let's do some more. Do you eat more raw or cooked food?
What was the question?
I didn't hear.
Do you eat more raw food or cooked food?
Simply because I'm concerned about, I don't really eat raw. Well, I don't eat any kind of raw meat. I don't eat sushi or anything like that. Most of my food is cooked food, let's say. Not processed, but cooked. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Mark, did you have any amalgams removed?
Yes, but I still have some to be removed. I have one that the doctor's going to have to remove 2 teeth to take it out. So he said, Mark, I just can't take the amalgam out and put a new one in because they're connected. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to pull teeth. Yes.
Okay.
And I've had teeth pulled too. Yes.
What brand of Biomat? Isn't that a brand, Biomat?
Biomat. Yeah, you can find it on Amazon.
Look it on Amazon. We'll also write that down because there are a few things I noticed we're missing on the blog. So
amethyst crystals. The one with amethyst crystals. Amethyst stones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The AAKG, people have found that helpful for fasciculations. Scott, let's take a look. Tell us about your daily diet. I think that's covered.
Yeah.
It was covered in the original video. You can just say it really quickly because I think you gave quite a few details on your daily diet. But go ahead and I think it's important, so I think it's worth repeating it here.
The main thing is the dairy. The dairy's in a lot of things that you don't realize. I mean, even down to butter. When people bake something, they will add butter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
You mentioned you take Heal every day, which is it. That answers the raw versus cooked as well. Heal in a meal is actually a raw supplement that's in the blog. So it is freeze dried, but it's raw.
Right.
I take about 6 scoops of that, or actually more than that. About 6 scoops of that in a shake a day of the Heal in a meal.
Yeah. You just have a couple of shakes throughout the day.
3 scoops at a time.
Yeah.
And then what else do you eat?
It's hard to say. Fruits, vegetables, salads. He does do some. You like fish?
I do.
Seafood.
I do eat
we're
fish. I don't
with
eat.
that.
I try not to eat seafood out of the sea because I don't want out of the ocean because I don't want no mercury.
Right.
So we, freshwater fish. And then I don't want iodine in my diet. So, of late, it seems like I've been, during this thing, it seems like I've been doing mostly healing the meal.
Yeah. Right.
I love the taste of it.
Right.
I love chocolate, and it's a way of me getting my chocolate fix.
Right.
The healing the meal.
And it's not as hard to digest compared to eating a piece of meat, like protein.
Right.
And so
a lot of folks don't know what this looks like, so I was just trying to show what this
The Heal on meal, and then show the
kinda
Leap
looks
XX
like.
top and the L
and
serum.
then the Leap X. I think you can see that.
the blend of amino acids.
The blend.
Right. And then the L-serine, he
And then
sells
there's
separately on that
L-serine.
website.
I don't know if you can see the L-serine or not. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
And also in the Leap to Be Fit, they have methylcobalamin, they have theracumin, they have.
I don't think you're going to be able to see that.
Well,
They can look it up. It's okay.
Okay.
But it's okay. There's a lot of other stuff besides amino acids in. Matter of fact, Dr. Bedlack just did a study on Leap to Be Fit. It wasn't rated that high because not a lot of clinical trials are doing, but he did on cases. If you look at cases, 3 of his cases on ALF reversals are taking the ingredients in Leap to Be Fit. Okay? He didn't say what ingredients. He just said 3 of his reversals are taking all have in common that they're taking the similar ingredients that are in Leap to Be Fit. You can go look at that on Dr. Bedlack's site on cases. He rated it a B for that. So.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said, which is, 3 years on a trach doing all of these things with diet and supplements, and yet it was the Leap that brought it up to the next level.
Right.
So you still had to do all the diet and supplements, but the Leap and the L-serine, actually, you got some results from.
Yeah, so a lot of curcumin extra in my diet. I think that helps too, quite frankly.
Yeah.
The curcumin. Besides the Leap, she puts extra. I take extra curcumin.
Okay.
Anti-inflammatory.
That's huge.
Okay. You mentioned you don't want to take iodine. Most people are deficient in iodine, so I'm kind of curious about that.
I'm not. They tested me. They put it on your skin and how quickly it absorbs into your skin is if you're deficient. I'm not deficient in iodine.
Good point. I think that's really important. So 95% of the population might be deficient in iodine, but not Mark.
No.
And so it's very important to take your supplements according to what you need as an individual.
Right.
Oh, you take an iron. We've been told not to take iron because it messes up the constipation. But again, that's probably individualized as well.
Right.
Do you take any iron?
No, I get it
Right.
in my normal diet.
Supplements.
The Healing Meal has enough iron in it. Actually, it has a couple 100% of your daily allowance, you know. So that everything I get is from that. I take no multivitamin or anything. It's all through, you know, what the supplements and what I take.
Right, and those supplements are listed. Scott, do you see anything that we missed on the question and answer?
We are all set and about to wrap up here, time-wise. So,
oh, I wanted to mention the stomach because I read this the other day, and you mentioned it too. When you're stressed, Mark.
Yes.
When you're stressed out, it affects your stomach. So can you talk about a little bit about the emotions, the connection between your emotions and your stomach? Because we're trying to heal the gut. Part of the healing the gut actually is your mental state.
That's that mind and body connection.
Absolutely. And by doing all that worrying and stress and everything, you can get what I call adrenal burnout.
Right. And
you need your adrenaline. So there's no way possible you can live a totally stress-free life.
Right.
I mean, you worry about things, but I try to not, let's put it this way. When I was an engineer before, I worried about everything because I had a lot of responsibility, and I still have responsibilities, but most of it is just trying to stay healthy for my wife and kids and, and grandkids and family. And, but I don't worry about things. I try not to.
So with that mind and body connection, one of the supplements that he takes, the Vertizymes is good to have when you eat food to help process that and break it down. But then also those Vertizymes can be taken on an empty stomach. So like say at nighttime, he gets 2 at night because what it's doing, everything that takes, it helps, is calming the system to be able to sleep well. And whatever took place during the day, whether it was mentally, physically, the gut, as well as the brain trying to process, at night is the repair time to be able to break down what took place during the day. And if you don't have that good night's sleep, the next day that adrenal is still burnt out. So with these Vertizymes, it's able to help calm the body, calm the mind, process what took care of the day so you can rest, and so the next day you start all over. Otherwise, you're bringing it into the next day and you're going to be backlogged with trying to de-stress everything.
Vertizyme, I saw something just pop up. Vertizyme is plant-based. Yes, it's vegetarian.
Yeah, lack of sleep, one of the fastest way to burn out your adrenals. Yeah. Okay.
And then somebody asked about God. They said, well, can you feel God's presence when you...
I'm glad we end on this.
Yes.
You're connecting that?
The best way to end.
Yeah.
Because, we just went through probably the toughest week last week that I've ever experienced in my life, not being able to go to church during, this Holy Week and having to watch church on TV. We were able to do social messaging with family and not being around family was very difficult. I watched The Passion of Christ. I watched Jesus of Nazareth. I watched, you name it, I watched it this weekend because I wanted to feel like I was back in church. But without God, and, and I said this in the video, and I'll say it really quick. I came into this disease once I got out my initial mourning period, I call it, after I was diagnosed. I decided I was going to take this on a win-win approach. I enrolled in clinical trials to try to help my generation or the next generation. That was a win. But, through it all, if I had my faith, and if this is the way God was going to take me, that was also a win. And I was going to be home, So I looked at it as a good thing. And that helped me actually through the psychological part of this whole process, because it is very much a psychological thing too.
People ask, how can a man like you stay so positive, like that? So it's a big part of that was your faith.
It is, absolutely. Without faith, I wouldn't be here.
God's got this.
He's
helping us through this journey the whole way. No matter what happens, whether it's a good day or bad day, he's the one. And we have to have that faith for him to work through us. You give him the glory because we're just passing through this journey.
Yes. And you know what God helped us do? People that I had called friends for years, but they carried some negativity with them. Unfortunately, we had to disassociate ourselves with the negativity and focus on friends and family and people that were positive. Because if you're around negativity, you're going to be negative. It just seeps into your life. And not that I still don't love the people. I love the people, but we just had to, people that were not positive or weren't living like we wanted to live, we just had to change direction on that.
Right. We welcome the positivity, the negatives. No. Even when we start, we have our moments of getting negative. It just happens. It's life, and it's okay. We're going to stop that right now. No negativity, because all it's going to do is bring us down mentally and physically.
That's right.
And so we're there for each other in a positive way. And whoever else comes in to this journey with us, the people that we talk to, being positive gives them that extra hope, and that, oh, okay, you're making it. We can do this too. Right. Otherwise, you're going to be gone a lot quicker than if you have those positive thoughts.
What we've seen, and we've been with a lot of pals, we've gifted pals. Matter of fact, we just got through gifting over 100 people in the last 2 weeks of the Leap to Be Fit through our nonprofit. And I want to mention that because, I made them sign a little letter, not this big letter. I mean, Patricia saw my letter. And one of the thing is to have a positive outlook. You gotta agree to have a positive outlook, and we'll gift you. I mean, I would have gifted them anyway, but I wanted them to see, here's the things that we have to do. You have to take responsibility for your own health too. Okay. You have to, and Tish gave me a lot of those ideas. Thank you very much for Patricia. But the thing that stuck out was like the positivity. And if you're not willing to be positive, then there's nothing that's really, brain is a very powerful tool that God gave us. And if you think negative, you're going to feel negative.
We're in contact with many, many pals. And one of our very first pal that stopped his progression said that the positive mental attitude is a part of your healing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that was Eric Edney. He's like the very first person we ever interviewed. Okay, so just to remind everyone, yes, I will, if you check back at healingals.org, we'll give you details of, as soon as this gets up, which should be in the next day or so, we'll put it up on YouTube. We're going to add information from the Q&A. We'll probably do an FAQ blog actually on this. So a lot of the questions that came up today, we'll summarize them in a quick blog. And we will do another, I'm going to try to do this every couple of weeks with different people because we've discovered that pals really need support. So the next one is going to be in a little less than 2 weeks with Stephen Sherry. And I will announce that also at healingals.org. So just the information is there, and just keep checking back.
Actually, Lisa spoke to 2 people, and I heard, not that I listen to conversation, but again, we don't live in a 3,500 square foot house anymore. It's 1,000 square feet. But she spoke to a person from Australia and a person from Yugoslavia. California. Yeah. And she says, I just have to stress, this is what we did to help Mark. Mm-hmm. It's maybe not perfect for you, but I'm just giving you advice, giving you what we did for him, and as a basis for you to start off. Mm-hmm. But you might have to adapt to your own situation.
Yeah, and another couple of resources you'll notice, if you go to healingals.org, there's a resource page, so that things like shackle.org, what Stephen Shackle did, he explains what he did. At alswinners.com, or what Kim and Kay Cherry did for Kim's ALS. So everyone is different. Everyone has found that sweet spot for them. This is what protocol is helping me. And in 6 months, that protocol might be completely different. Like, it's constantly changing. Stephen Sherry, by the way, a couple of things before we close I wanted to let you know, but before I mention Stephen Sherry, I wanted to ask Scott, do you have any more questions for Mark and Lisa, or Lisa and Mark, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No,
I think we covered everything.
I think we covered everything in the videos, and you know, just faith, hope, and love, and positivity. You know.
Right.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on. And I also want to mention in 2 weeks, we will be interviewing Stephen Sherry. He has a YouTube video. I'll post that on healingals.org. So you'll be able to do another live Q&A with him. That will be on April 24th, I believe. And people have asked about the conference videos. We've had many, many challenges with the conference videos, but I expect them to be out by the end of April. So that is coming up. Keep yourself posted on healingals.org again for that. And also on the description of this, on this YouTube video, will be a bunch of links. And there were a few things that we will be making sure is on the blog as well. So just Mark and Lisa's blog with their whole story is on there, as well as part 1, and this is going to be part 3 of the video versus part 2, because I think it's gotten really long. So that's great. Anything else? Also we are working on the book and the docu-series. People asking that. Our goal is to get these out in 2020. Okay. Both the Healing ALS, a book, and documentary series. So just to let everyone know that is our goal.
You know, can I add something else? The last thing is, I tell all pals, not just pals, we have people with MS that Lisa talks to, and all kinds of diseases, and people with mental health issues too. And I always use just never surrender, because if you give up, you know, things get bad when you give up. Just keep fighting. Don't raise that white flag. No white flags, as Steve Gleason says in New Orleans. Never surrender. As long as you keep that in mind, no matter what you're going through in life, you can conquer it.
Yep, and you have another one. Choose life.
Life, absolutely. Choose life. That was, we tell that to all our pals, that I don't give advice when people ask me about. And a lot of people do ask us about, what do you think about getting a trach?
That's a big question.
A big question we get. Mark, what do you think about getting a trach? I'm like, well, now that you've asked, I don't give advice unless asked, because normally I say that's between you and your maker and your family, you know. But now that you've asked, I say choose life. Because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know, a month from now, a year from now, and if you're still around and there's a cure for this disease, then by choosing life, you'll be here.
Okay, and Scott, I would like you to say goodbye, and I want to tell everybody who Scott is, so go ahead and say hello. Say bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Scott.
And Scott, by the way, is our videographer. He does all the editing. He does all the camera work. He does all the direction. So Scott is a very, very big part of why we're here.
Thank you, Scott.
We've done so many interviews over the years with so many pals. He's responsible for that.
Yes.
So upcoming as well is a documentary series, which we're working on. So, you know, Scott is working on that very hard. So I just wanted to let you know there's more coming down the pike, and we're trying to get as much out as soon as we can. And that's why we're doing these YouTube videos, so that people have things to work on and listen to and learn. And while they're healing, while we're waiting for the documentary series and book to come out.
Thank you, guys.
Very good. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you all.
You two are wonderful.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. Never surrender.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
now.